Dear Mr. Andrej Pawlitschek, Director of Ljubljana's Culture Forum and Counselor for Cultural Affairs at the Austrian Embassy in Ljubljana, and Ms. Barbara Koželj Podlogar, Acting Director of Creativity at the Ministry of Culture. Great to have you today here for this interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So you two have been cooperating in the sphere of cultural diplomacy. Could you please explain us for the beginning what actually this means? Is this in any way different than diplomacy in politics?
Ja, seveda je tukaj velika razlika. Torej, pojem kulturne diplomacije je zelo star. Kulturni atašeji so od nekdaj delovali tudi v polju diplomacije. In še vedno pa moramo tukaj ločiti med kulturo v zunanjih odnosih in pa kulturno diplomacijo. Zdaj, kulturna diplomacija seveda v prvi vrsti nekako povezuje, odpira vrata, daje neka sporočila, medtem ko kultura v zunanjih odnosih gre morda bolj za, kjer se povezuje več držav, kjer so neke strateške usmeritve, predvsem lahko gre samo za promocijo države, njenega jezika, seveda pa tudi širše umeščanje v nek skupni, recimo v tem primeru evropski prostor, v samopromocijo umetnosti, torej v deljenje nekega delčka v nekem skupnem mozaiku in pa tudi prepoznavnost države, v kateri deluješ. Vsekakor je kulturna diplomacija mehka moč diplomacije. Na osnovi kulturne diplomacije to je neka osnova in če se dobro medsektorsko povezuje, seveda ima tudi to moč, da se morda kakšna druga vprašanja, ki jih je težje izpeljati, tudi lahko lažje izpeljejo.
So as far as the recognition goes, maybe Slovenia and Austria know each other from back in the days, we could say. Is it that why maybe you had an easier job being here?
Easier job is a good question. The Austrian Cultural Forum, or as it was called at that time, let's say the cultural department of the Austrian Embassy, first was part of a Consulate General back in 1992. Only later it became really a cultural institute or a cultural forum, as we call them, because we renamed or rebranded it, to say something, in 2001 from cultural institutes to cultural fora, which is the same. It was only a larger kind of network that in 2001 was established, now running for 30 cultural fora worldwide. With the same wide field of work as culture is, or cultural diplomacy, as you asked before, is a soft power tool in international relations. Bilateral, multilateral, it's always a soft power. Meaning, if diplomacy or politics between two states is not working anymore, perhaps culture is the only kind of field where there is also still some sort of cooperation, something open, some channels open where these two countries or institutions can work together, helping so to get some dialogue running in the politics or in other fields.
Would you say that connection between Slovenia and Austria now is strong? You must have done quite some events, projects in the previous year from the beginning of your mandate. What would you say, looking back at this time, since you are just about to leave Slovenia, was your biggest achievements?
Let's say cultural relations between Austria and Slovenia has always been strong. It's a neighboring country. Clearly, we share a huge common history, which might be an advantage, but at the same time is also some burden that we share. But working together on cultural projects makes it easier also for the wider public to understand what is Slovenia standing for, what is Austria standing for, bringing us together. It's something, you can achieve something new, you will gain something new, perhaps attending maybe an event organized by Skica, the cultural institution of Slovenia, not only culture but also for information, in Vienna, and at the same time what we are doing here in cooperation with many other cultural actors here in Slovenia on the Austrian side. So it's sharing something. It's sharing something new maybe, because our main aim is to showcase not an Austria, meaning a national Austria, but a cultural Austria, meaning a broad kind of events with a huge focus on many things. At the same time, these are not always Austrians who are here. We try to bring people, artists that work and live in Austria at the same time as Austrian, really born artists, let me say in that sense. So we have a very wide perspective of people that we try to invite and to showcase them and their work here in Slovenia.
Do you also do some events, projects together where there are also Slovenian and also Austrian artists involved?
Ja, seveda, jaz bi tukaj nadaljevala, kar je Andreas začel. Seveda odnosi so dobri, veliko se je dogajalo in to je lahko tudi bila podlaga pravzaprav političnega projekta, torej projekta dveh zunanjih ministrov, da smo v letu 2019 žal tudi v težkih razmerah nekako začeli, še mogoče pred pandemijo, ki nas je potem malo zaustavila, leto sosedskega dialoga, ki se je časovno malo razširilo, seveda še tudi kasneje. In tukaj smo delali skupaj, torej zunanji minister Republike Avstrije je otvarjal v Avstriji, kjer smo pač sodelovali, seveda to je projekt bil obeh tudi veleposlaništev, na kulturi sva bolj konkretno morda pač midva stvari, projekte vodila. In v Sloveniji pa seveda prav tako velika otvoritev in s tem projektom tukaj se je zgodilo čez 100 dogodkov, tako v Sloveniji kot v Avstriji, in prav tukaj pri tem projektu, kljub temu odličnemu sodelovanju, mnogi umetniki sodelujejo tako v Sloveniji, avstrijski, kot še morda celo nekoliko več slovenski v Avstriji, pa smo poskušali torej odkrivati tiste stvari, ki smo jih ugotovili, da so še vedno neznane. Kljub tej močni pač zgodovinski povezanosti, pa tudi sedanjemu delovanju, smo potem pač odkrivali veleposlaništvo Republike Slovenije na Dunaju, je tedensko objavljalo recimo rubriko na socialnih omrežjih, ali ste vedeli, na koncu je šla tudi ena knjiga, tudi veleposlaništvo avstrijsko skupaj s forumom v Ljubljani so objavljali te zadeve, no to je bilo zraven. Potem pa seveda vsi ti dogodki. Jaz bi tukaj zelo rada izpostavila skupno razstavo, ko gesta postane dogodek, ki sta jo prav delala takrat pač kustosinja Alenka Gregorič in pa iz avstrijske strani prav tako zelo prepoznavna kustosinja von Tuchenstein, Felicitas von Tuchenstein, in sta pripeljali skupaj najbolj prepoznavne avstrijske in slovenske umetnike. In najprej je bila razstava otvorjena na Dunaju, v Künstlerhausu, nato pa v mestnem muzeju še z izpostavami. Žal, kljub zelo tudi pomembni, družbeno pomembni tematiki, nove solidarnosti, prav v času pač korona krize, Je pa seveda sama korona kriza mogoče malo preprečila, da bi ta razstava pač bila tako videna, kot smo si jo mi želeli. Zdaj tukaj bi lahko izpostavila mnogo dogodkov, ki pa seveda tudi nimamo časa, ampak mislim, da se še to zmeraj da na socialnih omrežjih kaj najti, tako da to je bilo polno leto. Z Andreasom sva bila ves čas v stiku, prav tako tudi drugi z veleposlaništva, ki so pač vsak je imel nek seveda svoj del, ki ga je opravljal. Mislim, da je bilo to sodelovanje čudovito.
During the pandemic, it seems like all the culture almost died, well, except for the literary publishing and maybe films, video on demand. Would you say that you, like all the other producers in culture, tried to did all the events and projects now in these couple of months, because it somehow seems that everyone else is doing so, that they're just trying to make much more projects now to fill the gap that pandemics created?
Let me say like that. During pandemics, there was a shift from attendance of an event to go virtual on the internet. I've seen that in Slovenia we had some, people were not so aware that the internet might also be something where you can watch perhaps a concert or attend an exhibition, even if there are no people in the gallery. It was a challenge for us, I think, at the beginning. What should we do now? Art is normally perceived by attendance, by feeling, by hearing it. This was gone from one day to another. Slowly the public started to use and to see the internet as a kind of means of consumption of culture. Let me say really, because you consume culture. After 2 years, it's clear to say we are back now to a full-scale attendance. People come, people really want to have this feeling of culture as it was before 2019, 2020. Clearly, a lot of artists thought now we have to go live, we have to do a lot. We were overwhelmed here in Ljubljana by requests as we are working together with institutions by doing something. There is a huge backlash of 2 years where nothing was really live, and now people wanted to go live to do things. You can't really do the work of our institution, let's say, from 2 years compressed now in one, because we regularly do about 100 events, co-events with other institutions in Ljubljana per year. So that would have been 100 events plus the running ones, because we are planning. Skica is the same. It's working on in the same way as we are doing. We plan ahead. We try to fix things, dates where something has to go on. You can't push anything in. It's crazy afterwards because you can't do it. But I see it shifted a little bit, the pandemic, how we see art and how art is now done as a lot more internet web-based content together with live content, I would say.
But is it maybe easier, well, at least for some part of the cultural events, to do them online, since especially in connecting Slovenia and Austria, we sometimes have problems with not understanding one or other language. Would you say that that was also a problem with you? You maybe done some events in German language, and nearly half of Slovenia, especially the southern part, doesn't speak German as well as usually the northern part does.
To add one thing, we don't do any seldomly events in German because it's logic. We do events in the lingua franca now. Everybody speaks English. Slovenes perfectly, I have to say, because I was really astonished how good English is perceived here. German is only maps in the literature, but nevertheless, then we translate it. So there are no events that we do only in German. No, this is a no-go. You can't do it. Doesn't make sense, because then you have no attendance. We want people to have in our events, and a lot of, an exhibition, you don't need it to do in German.
On music, for example.
Not even music. Your music is a universal language. You don't need anything. You hear it. So, we have no events in German. A part of literature together with literates and perhaps students at the university. Then we will talk in German, but it will be translated in Slovene. This is logic.
But when we're talking about literature, for example, we have also Austrian library in Slovenia. How do you deal in that area of culture?
We know, let's say, the Austrian Cultural Forum helps to bring people together, meaning if there is a literate and some institution and bring them together, we try to bring them together, but we can't finance it. We can't help any publishing house by saying, okay, we will finance you the translation of a book. This is impossible. Austria isn't doing that. There are others, this is a private market. They will gain from the profits if they sell books. So they are doing it on their own. But publishing houses in Slovenia do a lot regarding literature in Austria, vice versa in Austria. There's a lot of publishing houses who bring out new books by Slovenian literates, and they were translated then in German. Anna Marwan is one of these literates. She lives in Austria, she's Slovene. I think her first book was published in German, and she was here at Ljubljana Book Fair in 2020, I think, and presenting her book that was first written in German, now in Slovene. So, you see, there's a continuous exchange, I would say.
And how is it with the exchange of information, ideas? When we're talking about books, Slovenia is about to be guest of honor in Frankfurt Book Fair the next year, and Austria is about to be guest of honor in Leipzig Book Fair the next year. Did you maybe exchange some information, ideas? You're, I guess, both in these great preparations at the moment.
No, jaz bom se sam za trenutek še vrnila pač k prejšnjemu, mogoče navezavo na prejšnje vprašanje. Seveda, ko govorimo o jeziku, kako se to predstavlja, mislim, to je nekaj povsem običajnega, tako kot pač na vseh festivalih in drugih dogodkih poteka. Torej, Slovenija ima dva kulturna centra. Enega v Berlinu, enega torej na Dunaju. In to sta tudi prva, torej pred tema dvema ustanovitvijo teh dveh centrov smo bili pravzaprav edina evropska država, ki teh centrov nima. Druge države imajo to pač tradicijo teh centrov in jaz tudi verjamem, ministrica je tej širitvi zelo naklonjena, tako da seveda so projekti torej zunanjega ministrstva in ministrstva za kulturo. In te dogodki pač potekajo običajno tako, kot potekajo. Kar se tiče same literature, seveda zmeraj poskušamo, tukaj je tudi vedno cilj, kar se dogaja pač tudi doma v državi, katere knjige so pač prevedene in se sodeluje vedno tako verjetno v Avstriji, mislim, sem prepričana, njihov sistem je tudi zelo podoben pravzaprav naš je podoben njihovemu, ker smo nekako tudi vzore iskali, ne, da pač predstavljaš tiste avtorje, ki imajo tudi prevode, ne. Potem pogovori pa seveda potekajo tako v slovenščini kot v nemščini. Tukaj je vedno zagotovljeno, da je, ne. To pa zato, ker naši skici, slovenski skici, nimata svojih lastnih prostorov, kjer bi pač to bilo namenjeno samo Slovencev. Ta pot je vedno težja, jaz govorim. Iz svojih izkušenj izhajam, ampak je pa ta pot in te naloge, da ti uvrščaš slovensko umetnost in kulturo, zdaj, če govorim samo o tej promociji, veliko težja, ker moraš iskati referenčne prostore, seveda, da jih potem povežeš, uvrstiš v tiste programe. Po drugi strani, ne, pa torej sam jezik, to, kar pa seveda kulturna diplomacija ni samo promocija, ne, ki govori o torej drugih vprašanjih, pomembnih, aktualnih, se pa povezuješ pa znotraj Unika, znotraj drugih organizacij in tako naprej, ne. Zdaj, seveda, ne, Frankfurtski sejem je za Slovenijo ena velika predstavitev, prav tako Leipzig za Avstrijo. Tukaj seveda imamo kuratorje. V Avstriji vem, da je to Katja Gaser, je tudi koroška Slovenka, z njo tudi odlično smo že prej sodelovali, tudi kuratorji, torej vsi naši tisti, ki so zadolženi za program v Sloveniji, odlično tudi z njo sodelujejo, tako da so v stalnih stikih in tukaj pač se vsak trudimo po svojem, ker vendarle se ima malo razlikujeta, pa vendarle to gre za dva največjih evropskih knjižnih sejmov.
Since you mentioned Ms. Gasser and the region where the Slovene minority lives in Austria, was this one of your also focus areas, since I guess there you can have such events, such projects in both languages, and they would probably understand you in whatever language you speak. Was this maybe one of your focus areas where you also try to form your friendship?
Mislim, torej predstavlja se vsa slovenska umetnost, seveda smo vključevali, mislim, torej slovenska manjšina v Avstriji ima odlične, ne, pač pisatelje, pesnike, ustvarjalce, ne, da tukaj ne omenjam, mislim, če samo omenim, torej Florjana Lipuša, Majo Haderlapt in tako naprej. In tudi ti bodo zagotovo, ne, pač po mojih informacijah, ne, vključeni tudi v neke predstavitve v Frankfurtu. Mislim, to zdaj naloga pač vodje kulturnega centra, kulturnega atašeja, ne, v neki državi, ne, posebej, če je pač kadrovsko to mogoče nekoliko omejeno, je težka, ne, tako da se pač treba omejiti na nekatere stvari. Zdaj sama kot vodja skice sem sodelovala z nekaterimi festivali na avstrijskem Koroškem, redno pa seveda tudi vključevala v programe, ker ne le samo koroške Slovence, ker najbolj učinkovito je delati projekte, kjer že sodeluješ z avstrijskimi umetniki, tudi zaradi publike, da pridobiš, tako daješ vidnost, ne. Tako da ni bilo prioritet, bilo je vse, tudi z drugimi mesti, tam, kjer so pomembni festivali. Seveda se pa je največ na Dunaju dogajalo v slovenskem primeru.
Is it maybe because Slovenia has residency in Vienna?
Torej, ta rezidenca ne igra tako velike vloge, ne. Tu sem jaz zmeraj rekla, mislim, da je Slovenija primer dobre prakse s temi rezidencami. Kolegi na Ministrstvu za kulturo iščejo tudi še kakšne druge možnosti ali pa kako bi se še to razvijalo naprej. So pa to prostori teh nekaj rezidenc, ki jih imamo, kjer dajemo ustvarjalcem, umetnikom in umetnicam možnost, da pridejo, da se skica je imela vlogo, da je vedno dala kakšne naslove, ker velikokrat se zgodi, da se neka predstavitev zgodi kasneje. Mogoče v slovenskem prostoru, ampak mislim, da vedno bolj, je treba vedeti, da stvari v neki taki prestolnici, tudi kot je pač Dunaj, ne, ki je res mednarodno mesto z vsemi mednarodnimi organizacijami in velikim številom ambasad in kulturnih centrov, ne, se ne dogovarjamo par mesecev naprej. Tam se dogovarjaš pač leto, dve naprej, če želiš, da si v neki prepoznavni instituciji. Zato, ko vemo, kako so naši razpisi v Sloveniji, pač vedno ni možnosti. Tukaj je vedno, ali bo tista institucija tudi nekoga vzela. Ne? In prav je tako. Jaz mislim, da je prav, da naši umetniki imajo tudi malo bolj prosto, da se spoznajo, da se predstavijo. In če pride do sodelovanja, je to kasnejše sodelovanje. Tako da v tem primeru te rezidence neke take vloge za samo kulturno diplomacijo nimajo, imajo pa jo kasneje in so zelo pomembne za naše ustvarjalce.
And what is your opinion on Austrian residencies in Slovenia?
First of all, we have very few residencies. We have daily encounters. There are a lot of artists here that we perhaps don't even know that they are here in Slovenia because, yeah, it's so near. You take your car, you drive over the border, and you work here. We don't know everything what's going on here. No, it's impossible. There's too much. We know there are a lot of artists from, we were talking about prior, from the Slovenian-speaking minority in Austria are here. We promote them too. This is a clear focus also from us. They are coming, let's say. Lipuš family is always, Marko Lipuš was here exhibiting, Cvetka Lipuš was here reading. She will be presented perhaps next year at Ljubljana Book Fair with her new book. Gabriel Lipuš was here performing in summer at a concert in Mestni Muzej. These encounters are so normal. This is nobody talks about it anymore because they are done. There's nothing great to ask for. Can we invite them or not? Yes, these are artists and they come over at the same time as any kind of other artist coming from Austria to Slovenia. Sometimes we don't know. We have no direct resident. This is also, I have to explain, we are part of the Foreign Office in Vienna. We are not part of the Ministry for Culture, Arts, Sports and Civil Service, where arts really belongs to, and they are curating them in Austria. And they're also financing perhaps travel of artists abroad. This has nothing to do. These are two different fields we are talking about. So they don't inform us on everybody who is coming here. Nobody. It's impossible. It would be overwhelmed because we are only two here. We are a small office. We have an office floor in the embassy. That's it. We couldn't really take this burden to know who's coming, exactly how and today, and doing what here in Slovenia. We don't know because we have artists from Upper Austria, which is a federal province in Austria. I think there's one here, a lady. She's working on rivers, how rivers are used now in the Balkans for producing electricity, what is changing in the environment by building new power plants and so on. I think that's the only one that comes directly to my mind, but there might be a lot of other ones.
And how do you find the artists that you do work with? Maybe the artists contact you themselves? Can they contact you themselves? Or you find them every time according to the area you're looking for at?
It really depends on the project we want to do. Sometimes, clearly, when you work for decades in the field, you know a lot of artists. You might know the right one for this project. We have programs. Let's say we are in the Foreign Office, especially in the cultural department, we develop different kinds of projects. Let's say New Austrian Sound of Music might be one of these programs where every 2 years about 30 ensembles from Austria showcased worldwide. Or we have started now some sort of program on curatorial exchange. There is one now going on with Slovenia, exactly, because I'm very proud of that. And there is an invitation for a Slovenian curator to go to Styria and develop a project and show it then in Graz. And we hope that the Slovenian side would also do the same, a curatorial exchange of a young Austrian curator, bring him to here to see the art scene in Slovenia, and doing a show here in Slovenia. Mustn't be all the time Ljubljana, because we are working on the whole area of Slovenia, not only Ljubljana, to be honest, because it might be, not the right thing only to see Ljubljana as the center. It's one of the centers here in Slovenia where you can consume and where art is produced.
So can artists, if anyone is watching us at the moment, contact you if they have some ideas?
It will depend. If these are Austrian artists, they can. If Slovene artists, we would take perhaps their request and forward it to Skizza in Vienna, because they are responsible for this kind of request.
So, to conclude, you have any plans for the next year that you're about to do together? What are the plans for the future?
Ja, torej, jaz mislim, torej pred nami je, torej državi imata že od leta 2003 podpisan sporazum, ki ga ves čas seveda tudi dopolnjujemo, ne. Zdaj smo v fazi nekih priprav. Sicer to ni tako bistveno, ker dejansko potekajo zadeve zelo dobro. Nekako bi si želeli, da bi kdaj tudi pač lahko prišlo do kakšne večje razstave, čeprav to je vedno odvisno tudi od naših torej akterjev na sceni, do kakšnega prikaza avstrijske umetnosti. Mislim, da tega pač po vseh teh 6 letih, ne, pač, ko sem mogoče bolj podrobno spoznavala, nismo imeli. Drugače pa tukaj so projekti zmeraj pa tudi skupni, ne. Mislim, programi, tako kot je rekel Andreas, pač jih vsak vodja skice, ne. Zdaj je to gospod Arih, v Berlinu Saša Šavel, pač pripravita, programi so vedno zelo ambiciozno pripravljeni in mislim, da se bo zgodilo veliko takih projektov, kot pa tudi drugih, o čemer sem govorila, torej kulturna diplomacija, ne. Torej, na področju kulturnih in kreativnih industrij, kjer bo pač Avstrija eden od torej teh nosilnih centrov, kjer se bodo povezovali z našim zelo uspešnim projektom Centra za kreativnost. Tukaj še je več iniciativ v okviru novega evropskega Bauhausa in tako naprej. Skratka, to so vse tiste zadeve, ki morda niso toliko širše vidne, so pa izjemno pomembne in imajo zelo potem na koncu neke učinke, ki morda širše se ne vedo, od kod so prišli, ampak vse to je skratka kulturna diplomacija. Ne? Vsi ti dogovori, vse te pomoči pri reševanju konfliktov, pri večji solidarnosti, glede na čas, v katerem smo in v katerega gremo. Mislim, vsa ta pomembna vprašanja, ne dvomim, da se bodo tudi reševala v okviru kulturne diplomacije.
Well, I sure hope that your connections will work on even after you leave Slovenia. Since we know, you already mentioned solidarity, we know that already reading of books on paper somehow brings up the empathy in the people. So I wish you both very good connection and also very good cooperation also in the future years. And maybe Mr. Pawlitschek, just for the last question, can you tell us where you are going to go next when you leave this position?
It would be nice to go next. My next step is retirement. Unfortunately, I have to. In Austria, the law when you arrive at 65, you have to leave, you quit your job. I will stay in the region, to be honest, because I see there's still a lot of possibilities for me, let me say like that, to work in the field that I was working now for more than 36 years. What I'm really hoping for is that we can get more regional collaboration, meaning the region between Friuli, Venezia, Croatia, Slovenia, and the two federal provinces of Austria at the border, Carinthia and Styria. That might be really of interest to me. And I hope we start to, or we begin to start to talk a little bit more in depth about Capital of Culture 2025 Nova Gorica, because this, I think, is really a main task for Slovenia to showcase itself with Italy, with Gorizia. And clearly, for me, it's clear that there must be also somehow some strong Austrian presence at this really event, because it's a regional event for me. And yeah, having lived here now for 5 years, what should I say? I hope I will be back. Thank you.
We sure hope that you will be back, and it will be lovely to have you here. I wish you both good work in your future steps, even in retirement. Don't do too much in retirement. For Slovenian retired people, everyone's saying that once you achieve your retirement, you don't have time anymore at all.
We will see. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today.
Hvala.